And so we're returning today to this really great conversation about internal resistance and how to go after the things that your heart, your mind, your soul are telling you are for you, and yet something's keeping you from. So talking again with Kam Knight this week, and this is the second half of this really fantastic conversation. So enjoy.
The world is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DeMano. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss and practice our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
And it's good. And if you like, I can kind of talk about another reason for resistance.
Yeah.
And it's kind of similar to what you're talking about. And one reason resistance comes up is because our brain is processing all the things that could go wrong. And to illustrate what I mean, as I mentioned, I've traveled a lot to over 100 countries, and many people have been inspired by my travels. But as I also mentioned, there was a point where I didn't travel, was afraid to travel, and afraid to travel on my own. And when I really looked into the resistance, I realized my brain was processing all the things that could go wrong. Yeah. What if I buy the wrong flight, book it for the wrong date? What if I have to cancel and I can't get a refund? What if I can't make it to the airport, miss my flight, forget to pack something, or worse, my luggage is lost? What if the hotel is not nice? What if I'm pickpocketed? What if I'm robbed?
Right.
So anytime we do something, the brain is processing all the things that are going wrong. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, it doesn't tell us what those things are. It just creates this impenetrable wall that we can't push through. It's like this invisible wall that we can't move through. And the more things that can go wrong and the more severe the outcome of those things, the more resistance there is. And so if we can just step back and not let that initial response get in the way and talk through what is causing that resistance. And it really helps to talk with another person, though we can also journal. Doing it in our head is not so effective because our brain can only hold so many thoughts at a time. We can actually work out, oh, wow, these are all the things that my brain is fearing. And more often than not, they're actually not a big deal. And some of the stuff, Marci, it's pretty ludicrous and like stuff that outlandish things from outlandish scenes in movies. And if you don't mind, I could share a quick story about it.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so as I was growing up, I watched movies like Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Kurt Russell's Movie Breakdown. And those movies made me terrified of small town America. And for a long time, I've driven to every U.S. state now, but for a long time, I was afraid to road trip because what if my car breaks down and I'm trapped in Brait's Hotel and there's a guy with a chainsaw who kidnaps my wife? Like that's how outlandish some of the processing that's happening that is preventing us from going through this stuff. And now I've driven to and through, like I said, all the U.S. states, and I haven't experienced any of that. In fact, I've found people to be much more hospitable and welcoming in small town America. Yeah. But this is another thing that can do it. And so circling back to what you're saying, we have all these things that we need to do, but sometimes just taking the first couple steps can unlock the rest of the steps and see that a lot of the processing our brain is doing, it is a little unnecessary. It's creating unnecessary overwhelm.
Yeah. That story you told makes me think of Jaws. I don't know if you're old enough to remember that, but when that one came out, and I lived in Southern California, but wherever, everybody, even pools, people were afraid of the
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
Not helpful. Like this is why now
Exactly.
in my wiser years, I don't watch movies that pull me down or bring me into
Yeah.
fear. I used to love that as a kid. Now I'm like, no, that's not where I want to put my attention. And also a movie is very like it's very a good movie will pull you in and it really gets you
Yeah.
involved. So now you're in this very immersive imagining the thing. And what do you want to imagine? Because what you're focusing on is what you're pulling
Yeah.
in, right? So scary
Exactly.
stuff, the things that, what if you had not pushed on beyond that and not been able to travel all the
Yeah.
states, which is enough of an amazing accomplishment, but then 100 countries, things these things can keep us from living our full life,
Yeah.
from doing the things that will just lift us and
Yeah.
make our lives richer and level us up too. Because when we travel, we grow. And when
Yeah.
when we meet new people from different places, that is a growth experience. But if
Yeah.
you're afraid and you allow it's courage because we all have fears, right? But the courage is to push through it in spite of the fear. So when you're
Yeah.
courageous and you push through and you still do the thing,
Yeah.
yeah, you unlock all sorts of amazing things.
But it's way better to not have the fear in the first place. So
Yeah,
let's not waste our time watching media that it's really just pushing anxiety in us. And I do want
for
to talk
real.
about it. I'm glad you resonated with this because
Yeah.
what that movie Psycho did to the motel industry, it was like nobody wanted to stay in motels. And so you talked about Jaws, people didn't want to go in the water.
Yeah.
These are both very important things for people to look at to understand the kinds of anxiety that media might be pushing in us that we're not even
Yeah.
realizing and how it could be holding us back. And I want to share something that I learned when I was in um, Bratislava. And is it the country? So it was the capital city, Bratislava. I can't think of the country.
Mm.
Slovakia. I was in Slovakia in Bratislava.
Ah,
I did a walking tour there, and our guide was talking about how that movie Hostel, it actually took place in in Czechoslovakia,
mm.
and that movie decimated tourism to that country. It dropped it by 75%
Oh
just
my
from a
goodness.
movie. And when I
Yeah.
would tell people that I stay in hostels, the first thing they think of is a movie hostel, and they just think like hostels. I'm like, no, you have a completely different image of what a hostel is. It's a complete opposite. It's where
Yes.
travelers come, they share stories, they meet. It's a fun
Community.
place.
Yes, community
Community.
and yes, um and able to travel, like affordable place to stay, but also you're not just in a hotel room because you can be in an amazing city and be in a hotel room locked up and not you're not experiencing it. But when you're in a hostel and you're meeting other people and yeah, or staying with
And,
a family, those are great
and
ways to travel.
yeah, and you get to travel and you get to experience the city with new people, all of that.
Yes.
But unfortunately, a movie can create that anxiety that, oh, this isn't good or this isn't dangerous. And
Yeah.
you watch enough movies, and it'll make you not want to leave the house.
Yeah, find some movies that are inspiring, that are uplifting, that are like travel movies that make you want to
Yeah.
go to the place, not make you not want to go to the place. We don't need
Yeah.
to feed the fears.
Yeah. In fact,
Yeah.
I would add say, don't watch movies at all. That's what I
Yeah.
would say. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not a media person. I know
Yeah.
I'm a little extreme in some of my views, and one of my
Yeah.
views is try to limit as much media as possible.
Mm,
Not only because the time that you're spending to watch that media could be used on something else, but it does give us a false reality of the world,
mm,
one that's actually more anxiety driven. And,
yeah.
I think a lot of people right now, there is a lot of challenges people are experiencing. And I think it has to do with media. And if they were to stop it, a lot of it can be
I know,
easily,
yeah. I know a
they
lot
can
of
move
people
on.
who are not watching the news right now because
Yeah.
it is just making them absolutely, like you say,
Funk.
anxious, afraid.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. So let's get back to your topic and the
Yeah.
resistance. And you've talked about the wants and the resistance. And I know that I believe from your website or from what you sent me, you have tricks of resistance and
Yes.
ways to kind of move forward. You call it tricks, I would call it tools, but like ways, things that people can take and use in their life, I think is so important.
Yeah.
And it's such a great time at the start of the year to get intentional
Yeah.
about how you want to move forward. So share some of that.
Yeah. So the tools are tools, but the tricks aren't so much tools. And the tricks of resistance is when resistance or when our brain stops us from doing something, more often than not, it doesn't tell us that it's stopping us.
Mm,
So if your brain was processing all the things that could go wrong, and that's the reason why it's holding you back, it
hmm
wouldn't say, hey, Marcy, this thing that you're trying to do, well, there's a lot of possibilities for it to fail. And so we're not going to let you do it. That's not what your brain does. Instead, your brain uses manipulative tricks, and it has all sorts of tricks up its sleeves to keep you from doing things. And many
hmm
of the things you wouldn't think of as tricks, which is why they work so well and why we so easily fall for them. So it's really important to understand the tricks because a lot of times when we're in resistance, we don't realize we are in resistance and we're
hmm
doing things that are not productive or counterproductive, thinking they're productive. And so some of the more commonly known tricks would be watching television, media, playing video games, drinking alcohol, maybe even drugs. And I say obvious because when we're doing these things, oftentimes we know we shouldn't
Yeah.
and that we should be doing something else. But then there's other tricks that are not so obvious. For example, a lot of times people will fall into a heightened sense of planning. They want to plan out all the things they're
Mm,
going to do, how they're going to do it, and everything before ever starting. And the more time they spend on planning, the less time they're spending on doing.
yeah.
And by doing that, resistance wins because the tricks win because it's keeping you from doing the thing. And so the reason this is dangerous is because when we're planning, we actually think we're making progress. So we're led to believe that we're actually moving forward when in many ways we're not. And not to say planning is bad, but if we're all we're
Right.
doing is planning, it's taking to
Yeah.
plan, not actually taking action, then it's a trick of resistance. I'll give a couple other examples so people could be aware. Another thing people do is they fall into a heightened sense of perfection. They want to not
hmm
just plan everything, but do it perfectly.
Yeah.
Dot all their I's, dot all their T's, make sure nothing shows up where someone can say something negative about. And
Yeah.
again, when we spend all our time in perfecting, we're not taking the subsequent actions. And because
Yeah.
we're not taking the actions, the tricks win again in keeping us from moving forward. But the
Yes.
most deceptive and the one that everyone falls into is pushing the task, activity, or goal off to later. So a thought or desire might come up and they'll say something like, oh, I'll do it later. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it this weekend.
hmm
Next week. I'll do it next month or I'll do it next time. And when the later or next arrives, they push it off to the next and next and next.
Yeah.
Until one of two things happens. One, they're married, have two kids, a stressful job, and as a result, no more time, or they completely forget the goal. So it's really important to understand the tricks in the thought or the voices of resistance. The voice of resistance will tell us, oh, we need to plan. The voice of resistance will say, we need to perfect. But more importantly, the voice of resistance will say, oh, I'll do it later, or I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it next week.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful of the voices of the resistance because since there is your voice, it could seem like you're thinking them when it's
Yeah.
really a part of you that's trying to hold you back. So that's the tricks of resistance. There's a lot of tricks that resistance has. In fact, I assume at this point in my life, anything that's keeping me from doing what I want is a trick. So if I get sick or I get into an accident, it's likely a trick because when you get sick or into an accident, it takes all your focus and attention away. And anything
hmm
that's taking your focus and attention away from the main goal can be a trick. So just be careful of that. So the tools are going to be the next piece. So we talked about the wants, we talked about resistance, we talked about the tricks of resistance, of how resistance shows up. Now
Yeah.
let's talk about how we can move past it. Again, the human brain is extremely complex, so there's many reasons that the brain will hold us back, and really helps to identify the reason and use solutions that work on that. So oftentimes a person will hear someone try something that worked for them, but they didn't work for that person. And that's because for the person it worked for, it addressed their specific resistance. And for them, they probably had some other resistance. And so that solution didn't really help. So that's the one thing. And because resistant topic goes deep, I can't go into all of it. But what I can say is that there's a model that I help people use when it comes to taking more action. And that is some people are really good at getting excited about things, but they don't start. Other people are great at starting, but they fall off.
Yeah.
Other people are good at sticking with things, but they sabotage themselves before getting to the end. And then there are some people who are good at getting to the end, but they stop doing what got them there, and then they fall, and then they lose the progress they made. This is where
Right.
the yo-yo and the yo-yo patterns
Oh,
come in.
yeah. Yeah. Hey, we just wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about something very exciting that Debbie and I and our team have been working on for literally years. And that is our Cour Tools app, which is now available at the Google Play Store and at the Apple Store. And you can sign up for it now, and you will get access to all the tools we've been talking about on the podcast.
And if you're an early adopter of Cour Tools, you can get a VIP price for $49 for a lifetime. That's
Lifetime.
right.
Buy it once, and we'll keep updating it too.
Yes. So we're super excited about this. Go to Apple Store, go to Google Play, and purchase it now.
Cour Tools, COUR, capital TOOLS.
Go get it.
So what I say for the people who get good and excited about a lot of things, but don't start, is to pick one want and cut out the rest. No matter what other wants your brain is producing, don't think about, worry about, or consider them until the first is finished and complete. So this will be really helpful for them. For the people who are good at starting, but they stop, is to use a technique for meditation. So meditation is about either holding a thought in your mind or keeping your head clear. Now, it's impossible to hold a thought in mind or keep your thoughts clear the whole time. And that's not the goal. The goal is when you do lose the thought you're trying to hold, or the other thoughts enter, just jump right back in and do the exercise again. And if you fall off, jump right back in. So for the people who tend to fall off, use the technique from meditation and just jump right back in. Once you catch yourself falling off, don't go into self-beat up like, oh, I made this mistake, I can't do anything right. Just jump back in. Keep doing that. For the people who are good at getting to the finish, but then they sabotage themselves right before they get there, it goes back to what we talked about, habits and muscles. It's really important to build a habit and muscle for things. It's important to build a habit for starting things. It's important to build the muscles and habit for sticking with things. And it's also important to build habits and muscles to finishing things. And so a lot of people, the people who get to the finish line, but they sabotage themselves, they just never have built the muscle to get to the finish. So their mind doesn't know what it's like. And it's too much of a shift that it can't help but make them fall off. And what I tell them is, you gotta do whatever you can to start finishing things. Like that's when you're gonna need the most willpower, the most motivation and everything to get to the finish. But once you start getting to the finish with some things, your brain realizes, oh, it's not so bad and it's something I can do. And you'll be able to finish more things. And then for the people who can get to the end but fall off, the model, what's really helpful is to understand success is harder to keep than to achieve. Success is already hard to achieve, but for a lot of people, it's harder to keep because while we're going after it, we have a lot more focus and motivation that's coming from internal that's pushing us there. But once we get there, a lot of that just goes away. So then we have to take over and create the drive to continue with it. So that's one quick model. The other is self-talk, because it really helps to have the brain create the motivation and drive and put us into action to do things versus us trying to force our brain to do it. And so if the motivation comes intrinsically from inside of us, we naturally want to get up in the morning and do the things that we're supposed to do. But
Right.
if that's not there, then when we wake up in the morning, we are like using techniques that we talked about earlier. Oh, I'll just run for a little bit and see how I feel.
Yeah.
Or we're trying to force ourselves to take action, and that only lasts so long. So the way to do that is with self-talk. And self-talk are simply statements that you say or repeat to yourself of the changes that you want to have or have happen and repeat it regularly. So if a
Yes.
person wants to run regularly, they could repeat statements like, I am a runner. I run easily and effortlessly 3 times a day. I enjoy
Yeah.
running.
Yeah.
And it may not seem like it, that those statements could actually do all that much, but it's huge. The more a person repeats it, the more those words go into the unconscious and create that action. And it goes
Yes,
back,
yes, yes.
yeah,
I absolutely agree with that. We
yeah,
talk a lot about, affirmations about the things that you're desiring and then speaking them like you just
yeah,
did. Not I
yeah,
wish I was a runner or I want to be a runner, but I am a runner in
yeah,
the now and pushing yourself to say it. I like putting post-it notes up that show it, I like to
yeah.
turn it into a song when I'm driving and say it over and
Uh,
over and sing it or whatever it
it's
is that you're
huge.
just driving it into you, telling a new story.
Yeah.
That's what you want. That's
And that's one of the best ways. And it circles back to how we started with repetition, how important
yes.
repetition is. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to just be physical repetition. Repetition can be verbal as well as visual. So people
Yes.
can see themselves do the activity, but the verbal is key. Like it all begins with the verbal. So I do like what you said about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Say it, yell it, find ways to just make
Yeah.
it part because there's a thing where, at first you'll have resistance to certain things like that. You say, I'm a runner, and the critic inside says, no, you're not. But you say, yes, I am a runner. And then you look at yourself in the mirror and you say,
Yeah.
I'm a runner, or I'm beautiful, I love this body, or whatever the thing is that you're looking to change or up level or release. And
Yeah.
it does work. It really does
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. So this is really, I'm glad you brought this up. A lot of times on podcasts, the host will ask me, so how does a person know what their resistance is? There's a few ways to know. And one of them is exactly what you said. You take statements of the
Mhm.
outcome that you want and you repeat it. And in the beginning, your mind will react to those statements.
Yeah.
And all those reactions are a telltale sign of your resistance. Like if
Hmm.
you say, I'm a runner, and your mind says, no, you're not, you're lazy, and then triggers memories of all the times you didn't do things, well,
Right.
that's what's driving your inability to do the thing. That's your resistance. And so there's a
Yeah.
lot of data there. And what's really great, like you said, is in the beginning that there is a strong reaction, but the more you do it, that reaction subsides.
Yes.
And the more it subsides, the easier it is to do the thing, meaning that the resistance is leaving. And then it gets to a point where there is no reaction, but there isn't a positive reaction. But if you keep repeating it, then it's when we're getting the positive messages being built in us, and that's when things just start to happen on its own. So yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. This is all such good information, good ways for people to get started to just build the life they want instead of just
Yeah.
allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
Um, you have ways for people to find you, to do more work, to find your books. Can you talk a little bit about that? Share how people can learn more and maybe even, I don't know, if people can work with you. I know you said you're a coach and a mentor. So
Yeah.
tell us about that.
Yeah. So for all the ones who spent their time listening to all of this and got to this point, I've got 3 free gifts for them. The first is
Oh, beautiful.
called Prompt Engineering for Your Mind. Most people don't realize, but the brain was the original ChatGPT, and there are ways to prompt it to not only give us solutions, but also help us take action. So that's the first guide. The second guide is there's ways to actually build skills and habits essentially in your sleep. It all comes down to repetition, but it doesn't just have to be physical, it could be verbal. So with self-talk, I teach people how to actually build skills. Like I learned to become a better dancer by repeating a lot of words around being a dancer. And so that's the second guide they can get. And the third guide is on the topic of internal resistance. It's on ending procrastination and sabotage. It's a more structured and deeper look into procrastination and sabotage. And they'll learn some more reasons for how our wants can create challenges, some other reasons for resistance, and even some more tricks that we weren't able to cover here. So they can get all 3 of those on my website at kamknight.com. It's right under my screen on the mic. And if they want to work with me, I have developed a technique that helps people go into their own unconscious to see their own resistance. So as I mentioned, a lot of the challenge with advice is that it's not geared towards us and to the struggles that we're facing. And I realized if my issues are in my brain, why don't I just go there for the answers? So I figured out a way to disengage the defense mechanism so we can go into the unconscious and we can work on a person's resistance at the unconscious level. And it's much faster. And if people are interested, they can email me at mentor@kamknight.com.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for offering the gifts and for your time. This has been such a great conversation and such a great way to start 2026. Yeah, I think there's just so much value here. I hope people will take advantage of all that you have to offer.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kam.
And now for your core mental health break. This is your opportunity to take a moment to support your mental wellness, your peace of mind, your own ease and grace. Take some time every day to support your mental health. You deserve it, and it matters.
Now let's try some bilateral tapping. Just cross your hands over your chest and place them on your shoulders, in the front of your shoulders. And then slowly, consciously tap one side, then the other. Left, right, left, right. You can tap with your feet if you prefer that, over your hands. This is calming your nervous system, bringing you back to a place of center. A simple technique you can do anytime. Thank you for pausing for yourself today. Your mental health is important, and you deserve peace, calm, and ease in your life every day. So please choose to receive it. It is always available right at your center, your heart, your core. Stay well, friends.
Thanks for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast, which is a production of our nonprofit, Cour Experience, who also creates and distributes Cour tools. You can find us at courexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in your community.
Our Cour Tools platform consists of a number of proven tools and techniques that are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in spite of what's going on in your world. We want to thank Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Our podcast editor is Justin Beeden. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, the producers, or the financial supporters. I'm Debbie DeMano.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. Thanks for listening. If you resonate with the idea of creating a community to help support kids and families, won't you join us by following the podcast and sharing this episode? You can even write a review. It truly does take a village, and we appreciate you.